Hi, this is Gary with MacMost Now. On today's episode, let's talk about how iCloud syncs your data. So syncing data between your Macs and iOS devices changed with iCloud. But a lot of people still think of syncing in the same way as before iCloud. So let's take the time to look at really how syncing works. So before iCloud, it was pretty simple. You would have, say, an iMac and an iPhone. It could be two Macs, could be two iOS devices. It doesn't really matter. You have more than one device. And what would happen is when you would change something, let's use contacts as the example here. You would change something, add a new contact or edit a contact, and when you would connect the two devices, for instance, you would hook your iPhone into your iMac with the cable, and then you would use iTunes to sync. Then the data would go back and forth. If you made some changes on your iMac, they would transfer to your iPhone. If you made changes on your iPhone, they would transfer to your iMac. And that would happen whenever you would connect and sync. Now with iCloud, here's one way of looking at it. You've got your contacts in iCloud. And when you sync, you can still use the old-fashioned way. But the way you should use it is to turn off the old-fashioned way of syncing through iTunes and instead just sync through iCloud. So you make a change on your Mac and it would sync to iCloud. You make a change on your iPhone and it would sync to iCloud, and then eventually it would find its way to the other device. So you make a change on your iMac, it would sync to iCloud, and then sync from iCloud to your iPhone, and vice versa. This is one way of looking at how cloud syncing works. But here's another way of looking at it. If you look at it as your contacts are only in one place, they're only in iCloud. That's where they exist. And what you're doing with your iMac or your iPhone is you're using the Contacts app there to view that data. So when you're looking at your contacts on your iMac, you're viewing the contacts that are on iCloud. Same thing with your iPhone. Now, one way to think about that is think about how you view web pages. It's the same way, right? You've got a website and you can view that on a browser on your iMac, or you can view that on a browser on your iPhone. You don't ever think that the website is actually on your iMac or on your iPhone. Of course it's not. It's not even your website. It's on a web server somewhere. Well, it's the same thing here. The contacts are on a server somewhere and you're using the Contacts app on your iMac or your iPhone to view them. Now here's a more accurate picture of what's going on, because of course you're not just viewing them, you're also changing them. You're adding new ones, deleting them, and editing them. So both the Contacts app on the iMac and the iPhone have the ability to send edits back to the server. So you change something in Contacts on your iMac and the edit goes back to the Contacts on iCloud. Next time you view that contact on the iPhone, it will be showing you the latest one from iCloud. So what happens if one device is offline? Say you're traveling and you're on an airplane and your iPhone is not connected to the internet. So what happens? Well, there's a temporary cache. The last time you're looking at contacts, your iPhone was smart enough to save all the data locally in a little temporary file. And now you can still view those contacts on your iPhone. It realizes that you can't connect to iCloud and shows you what it has, the last available data. Likewise, when you make an edit, it saves it to that temporary cache. Then next time you connect to the internet, what happens is the edits from that temporary cache go up to iCloud and you reestablish contact with iCloud, and you can again view the latest information up at iCloud. So when you think about contacts syncing between your Mac and your iPhone, it's not exactly wrong, but if you're troubleshooting something, kind of thinking of it that way will make it harder to figure out what's going on. It's important to understand that everything, all your devices are talking to iCloud, not to each other, and iCloud is being used as the one place where the data really exists. And here's something very important to realize, is there always is another way to view this data, and it's using iCloud.com. And iCloud.com is actually kind of like a direct connection to the database of information at your iCloud account. So whenever you're troubleshooting something or you want to look at your data directly, you just log on to iCloud.com and you can go and see the data there. So for instance, when I get questions about people saying, well, I made a change to my iMac and I don't see it on my iPhone, first thing to do is go to iCloud.com and find out what's really there in your contacts in your iCloud account. And that usually will help you figure out what may be going wrong or what's taking a little longer to sync. And I'm using contacts as an example, but this same thing applies to events, it applies to notes, it applies to reminders, anything that iCloud syncs across your different devices. It's all there at iCloudcom and it's all saved in iCloud, and you're really using the different apps to have access to it just in the same way that a web browser allows you to have access to a website. So I hope you found this useful. Until next time, this is Gary with MacMost Now. If you found this video useful, there's one thing you can do for me in return. It won't cost you anything and it will just take you a few seconds. If you're not already at MacMost.com, go there and then look for the video you just watched and go to that page. Underneath the video you'll see a bunch of different links that help you share the video with friends. Take a second to click the like button. This sends a signal out to the rest of the internet that the video is worth watching. Thanks.